organizations by council funds from councillors who receive, the town receives money when council members are on boards, but we did not receive that money, instead passed it on to the Grimsby Foundation. So that's also a place that you could apply in addition to your own foundation, which I think is a great idea. I have a bunch of financial questions, which I guess will be answered in the report coming from our staff. So thank you for your presentation. And also, I do want to reiterate that I appreciate what you do for the community. We've been there for Big Brothers Big Sisters Bowl for Curl for kids' sake. You're offering a service to the community that we as a municipality don't have to offer, and with events like that, I see how you're contributing and giving back to the community as well. So besides the Vipers and all the other things that you're doing, you talked about pickleball, which I'm kind of tired of talking about pickleball, and I'm sure everybody else is, but any pickleball courts that you provide means that we don't have to provide them as a municipality too, which makes me happy. Anytime you're doing something that we don't have to do, that's fantastic. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor DeVoe.
Thank you. I do have a number of questions and some thoughts, if I can. And I will start by saying that when I first read the notice of motion, the spidey hairs on the back of my neck kind of stood up. and I thought, I need to do some more research on this, right? Need to understand it better. I need to keep an open mind. And so I'm glad you've come, actually, to make this presentation. And I've had an opportunity to speak with some others in your club, too. And so I will say that the spidey hairs have started to lay down now. They're not quite as standing up as they were. In fact, I am quite intrigued by the concept of how we solve this way. If I could start with my first question to Mr. Rose, you're from the Niagara Community Foundation. Foundations have disbursement quotas that they have to meet. But that doesn't mean there isn't a little bit of wiggle room to give to not-for-profits who are not registered charities, or correct? Or is it just your policy of your foundation that you don't want to have to worry about that, so only registered charities are recipients?
Yeah, so thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor, great question. So CRA regulates that we can only grant to what they refer to as qualified donees. So those are registered charities and also municipalities. So we are limited by what CRA allows for. Now, CRA has slightly changed their rules. However, they've provided very little guidance, and the risk lands completely on the foundation side. So for us to be able to have a check and balance of working with another registered charity that has the fiduciary responsibility and the oversight, or a municipality, that makes, that fulfills our obligations through CRA, but also makes our auditors very happy. So it's a roundabout way that we can partner with nonprofits, grassroots organizations, to ensure that they're supporting the community without putting our charitable registration at risk. So.
Thank you. And I guess maybe to help everyone understand, not-for-profit corporations. There are not-for-profit corporations and there are for-profit corporations, which we also call business corporations. A not-for-profit corporation does not necessarily get registered charity status unless they meet certain criteria, have certain purposes, and so on. So you can be a not-for-profit corporation without registered charity status, which I understand is exactly where the Grimsby Curling Club lands in all of this. And so when we couple that together with the fact that, you know, the community foundation can issue registered charity donation receipts, of course, that becomes a bit of a carrot, I'll say, to people to then give and to flow it through to the curling club. So just to clarify that. And the other thing I think we should all remember, it is a fact, registered charities under the Income Tax Act, municipalities are included in the Income Tax Act as being allowed to issue donation receipts. So we're not technically a registered charity, but we are allowed to issue donation receipts here as a municipality. So just to, you know, establish those baselines. My question, I guess, is perhaps more for the curling club, if I could now put you on the spot. Not really, I'm just teasing you. I am curious about all of this, and you know, we all have probably quite a few questions, and now's not the time or place to drill you with my 100 questions as to how it would work. I'll wait, but I am quite intrigued and curious, and quite willing to allocate some staff time to find out the answers to this as to how we could actually make it work for you. I will share with you a few of my concerns, though, at the same time. Certainly when we get into these sorts of situations down the road, you know, when you're applying to get monies, it really, we'll need to flesh that out, basically, and understand it as to who actually applies to the Community Foundation, who actually writes the application, how does all that work? Because at the end of the day, I'm not really interested in adding to our staff's workload. So, you know, if we get into this, it'll have to be something where there's a lot of participation by the curling club in writing, applying, and so on and so forth, right? And I can envision that probably as part of our due diligence, we may want to double check with the Community Foundation. I'm sure you probably have gotten legal and tax opinions as to how and why this has worked with other municipalities. And there may be some cost that we will end up incurring in all of this too. So, and I'm concerned about that. And I'll tell you why I'm concerned, because you have a growing club, but 51% of your members are Grimsby residents and 49% are not. And I support the 51%. I support all your members. But at the end of the day, the question I have to ask myself is, how much of municipal resources are we willing to allocate to researching this and finding it out? And so I will just say that I am happy to support it if you are also willing to work with us that should there be any out-of-pocket costs, legal, tax specialist opinions, and so on, that we incur, that you would be willing to share that in some equitable sharing relationship, we'll call it. And my last question is, I guess, to ask the Niagara Community Foundation member again, the arrangements that you have with other municipalities, can you describe a couple of them to us and how they're working for you?
Gladly, through you, Mr. Mayor. So the most recent example is with the town of Lincoln. For example, the Vineland Research and Innovation Center has received grants from the Niagara Community Foundation. So simply, we have an arrangement with the town, and we send the grant check to the town, and then the Vineland Research Innovation Center will invoice the town, and then the funds will flow through accordingly. So it's a money in, money out situation. So at that, from that perspective, it's a very straightforward transaction. There is a paper trail. The town tracks the money that has come in. The Vineland Research and Innovation Center is aware of that, and then invoice them accordingly. And they regularly, Vineland Research Innovation Center, from what I've been told, regularly invoices the town. So it's set up and fairly standard. The other example that I can think of off the top of my head is a number of years ago, there was a group out of Niagara-on-the-Lake called Landscape of Nations. They built a beautiful installation at Queetson Heights, recognizing the Indigenous contributions to the War of 1812. They were a non-for-profit, but they worked with the town of Niagara-on-the-Lake, and the Community Foundation was able to flow through funds through the town to support that project. So for us, it's a fairly streamlined process. There is a paper trail. There's an understanding of what's going in, and then what would then in turn be coming out.
Thank you. I'm sure I have lots of questions, but I'll stop there.
Any Councillor Sharwell? Anyone, Councillor, have a first round question before we go to the second round? Seeing none, Councillor Sharwell.
And through Mayor Jarrett, thank you. Just to elaborate on the capital expenses for the ice and for the accessibility, are these urgent? Is this something that you need to have replaced in the next year? What is your timeline for when you actually have to have this done?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the ice plant And the Freon that is in it is viable till 2029. We run F22. It's the same Freon you guys are using in your outdoor rink. So we have till 2029 until it stops making, and then it becomes harder and harder to attain. The accessibility, it's however long until the provincial government says you have to be accessible, right? So we've heard that number was 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023. We know we have to do all these things. It's just being able to fund them. I can tell you, as I'm not currently a board member, but I sat on the board for 5 years, every single meeting we discussed how are we going to make ourselves expendable. So it is something that is constantly on the top of mind of every single board member at our club.
Thank you. And second question, actually, Brian, just liability. So my background's risk management, sport, from the sports side. So when we're comparing it to the Lincoln, the Vineland research, it's a different type of risk. So when we transfer this risk to Grimsby, like, will that be a factor in our insurance or anything to do with that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to be honest, I don't know what that transfer of risk is. For us, it's, we're fulfilling our CRA and fiduciary obligations to be able to work through an intermediary. I can't speak for what that would do for the town. My sense of it is that as long as there is an existing or a formal MOU and it's properly paper trailed and diarized and official, and everybody goes in eyes wide open, knock on wood, it should be a very streamlined, straightforward arrangement.
That's all for me. Thank you.
All right, any further questions? Seeing none, I need a mover and seconder to receive the delegation. Moved by Councillor DeFlavio, second by Councillor Corsangi. Moved by Councillor DeFlavio, second by Councillor Corsangi. Resolved that the delegation from Andrew Cheechak and Brian Rose regarding Grimsby Curling Club be received. All in favor? That's carried. Up next, we have Councillor Corsangi, who has moved, and Councillor Charwa, who's second the notice of motion supporting the Grimsby Curling Club. Moved by Councillor Corsangi, seconded by Councillor Charwa. Whereas the Grimsby Curling Club has been an integral part of the Grimsby community since 1951, providing recreational, social, and inclusive programming for residents of all ages and abilities, including a long-standing partnership with Special Olympics. And whereas the club is volunteer-run, has demonstrated significant membership growth from 370 to 440 registrants in the past season, including 55 youth participants, and continues to offer affordable access to curling while fostering healthy, active living and community connection. And whereas the club is in need of capital support for essential upgrades and accessibility improvements, but as a non-charitable organization cannot directly issue charitable tax receipts to support fundraising, and whereas the Niagara Community Foundation provides an established mechanism through donor-designated funds to support community organizations through charitable giving, legacy contributions, and endowments, and whereas the Grimsby Curling Club has requested that the town of Grimsby consider acting as an intermediary to facilitate contributions to the Niagara Community Foundation for the purpose of capital improvements and accessibility upgrades. Therefore, be it resolved that Council directs staff to prepare a report on the process, requirements, and feasibility of the town of Grimsby acting as an intermediary with the Niagara Community Foundation to support the fundraising and capital needs of the Grimsby Curling Club. Be it further resolved that the report include options, implications, and recommendation for Council's consideration should Council wish to proceed with this request. All in favor? Councillor DeVola, you want a friendly amendment?
I do think it is a friendly amendment. My suggestion had been that if in the course of our research we require legal or tax opinions, that to ask the curling club to share that cost with us.
Yeah, the mover and seconder need to agree to that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think the recommendation is to direct staff for a report, so we will kind of include a session of that nature so that it can be discussed during the staff report. I think it's better than deciding on it today, so you can see the whole report and then make a decision.
So just to clarify, so the report would come back, and then if the recommendation from staff is to get a legal opinion or a tax opinion or any other expert opinion, I will say, then that would be discussed at that time? Okay, that's fine by me.
All right, so I think we can just vote on this now then, as is. So all in favor? And that's carried. No. Thank you very much. Regional Councilor Seaborn's here tonight. Please come to the podium and for your report. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. Good evening, Council. I have tonight 3 little updates for you. One is from the NPCA. The NPCA is hosting a public information session focusing on the Beamer Memorial Conservation Area Management Plan tomorrow night. It's at the Elizabeth Street Pump House, and it runs from about 6 to 8. The development of the updated management plan is guided by the NPCA's Conservation Area Strategic Plan. There's too many words in this, isn't there? I should put it down into acronyms. With a strong focus on collaboration and community engagement. Due to the sensitive environment of the escarpment, the updated plan will be included with natural heritage enhancements, biodiversity protection, and will guide capital investments to improve visitor experience and long-term sustainability of the conservation area. The NPCA will be working closely with community partners and interested parties to ensure the current priorities, environmental pressures, protection, and unique natural heritage and needs of the community are reflected in this management plan. There is more information available through the land management team at landplanning@npca.ca. The second update I'd like to have, I think there's enough people that have noticed that the Milk and Things in town has been sold. The 40 Mile Creek Bridge was constructed in 1922 and is owned and maintained by the Niagara Region. On the north side of the bridge, a privately owned convenience store, Milk and Things, that has been situated above the substructure is physically connected to that bridge. A 2024 municipal bridge appraisal inspection determined that the bridge rehabilitation work is necessary sooner rather than later, and full reconstruction of the bridge is recommended. It was determined that there is a high risk of structural damage to 74 Main Street West, and therefore concluded the removal of the building and the substructure as necessary in order to proceed with the 40 Mile Creek Bridge rehabilitation and reconstruction. The building has been purchased by Niagara Region and is slated for demolition. There is no immediate plans regarding the ultimate owner of the land once the bridge has been replaced, but no structure will be rebuilt on where the current structure exists. It will be just a new bridge over a piece of road. Since the property is over the 40 Mile Creek, there is a good amount of deterioration in that vicinity, and the region is assuming that the area will need some repairs to the creek. It is likely that in the end, it'll just remain a creek. The last item I wanted to update is more a concern for our institutions, industrial, commercial, and institutions. It's with regards to the non-eligible source for recycling. I know the BIA has been really concerned about that, and they've been working closely with the region and the province. So Niagara Region is working with Circular Materials in an effort to develop an approach that will allow continued co-collection of recyclables. So for those that don't realize this, on January 26, the materials collected from our industrial, commercial, and institutional facilities will no longer be collected. It'll become the responsibility of each of the businesses independently. It's a costly procedure. So we're all working together to try and figure out a way where the region can work with Circular Materials. Some of the problems that we're coming up against right now is that Circular Materials, this is the recycling company, is offering a 2 blue box per cap per week for every industrial, commercial, and institutional location. A fixed cap is impractical and will discourage legitimate diversion while creating a 2-tier system. The Niagara region requests an as-need basis. So as industry grows, we need more than just a 2-bin cap. The execution deadline for this proposal is October 31st. The decision is not practical because they haven't told us how much it's going to cost yet. The participation threshold set by, again, Circular Materials is 2% of eligible properties. With natural growth and the number of small ICI locations, this is going to exceed the 2%. A natural growth responsive framework is needed. There's an inflexibility to this approach. The presentation to municipalities suggests a limited flexibility in terms of the agreement. Niagara and our business community requires a collaborative process that recognizes local operation and governance timelines. So far, there is no costed offer. The region has not yet received a full costed offer in which to discuss with municipalities. So Niagara Region is committed to maintaining access to recycling for our non-eligible sources while ensuring fiscal responsibility and operational feasibility. The region will again be reaching out to the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks, and local business representatives who have expressed concern about the potential loss of this service. So I will attempt to answer any questions on any of the 3 updates. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Seaborn. Questions from council? Councillor DeFlavio.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Councillor Seaborn. I know that you might not have the answers to these questions, but you're always awesome at getting back to us. So I'm going to ask them, and then if you can email us back or bring it back to a future meeting, that would be great.
I could do that.
You talked about the Milk and Things being torn down.
Yes.
And the reconstruction of the bridge. Obviously, we have the downtown project that's coming next year. Do you know a timeline as far as the demolition of that building is concerned, or can you get us that? So we want to work. There's a lot going on
You don't
downtown.
want to shut the whole town down. I get it. I totally understand. There is no timeline at this point. The appraisers have said sooner rather than later. They said within the next 5 years. The building has been purchased, and I think it's closed already. If not, it will be very shortly.
The demolition is one thing. I'm concerned that we have a boarded up building in the downtown in a very prominent area of Grimsby, so the sooner the better. I know that the bridge construction might take longer, but having a boarded up building right there at the mouth of one of our most important parks in town where we have festivals is not something that we want to keep for long. So I'm sure that you will encourage the region to tear that building down as quickly as possible if that is the long-term goal. As far as the recycling program is concerned, I guess my question is, and I don't know if you know the answer to this, how did we get to this point? Because, so I would assume that there was a contract in place with the recyclers. Is this a change to the contract? Was it a renewal of the contract where they changed the part of the contract because it was too arduous to collect these things? Because obviously, maximizing recycling is something you want to do because the whole point of the recycling is waste diversion. So anything that we recycle means we don't have to pay for a dump for it. So maybe if you can elaborate on how we got to that point.
Yeah. This is a provincial project. So the province of Ontario said all recycling is now going to be handled in one facility or by one company. So Circular Materials is the one that has been hired to take care of all of our recycling. So although you probably don't notice it on your tax bill, you're no longer paying for your recycling because it's part of the provincial plan. However, if you are a business, now this is as silly as it's going to sound, and I'm going to let you know how silly it is. If you are a business as of January 2026, they no longer have to pick up your recycling, which means they can drive downtown Grimsby and pick up the recycling from every resident who lives on Main Street and not have to pick up the recycling that is left by businesses. Now, it's currently picked up because there was an arrangement made a couple of years ago that Grimsby and several other municipalities have an extended plan. So it gets picked up as part of your regular garbage collection. But that changes in January. So needless to say, business improvement areas throughout the region are wondering, how are we going to manage it? The problems, this just touches the problems. It's such a complex thing that really doesn't need to be. Why they figure they have to put in extra trucks to pick that up rather than just picking it up all at the same time, that's where we're kind of stuck right now. And to come up with a plan and sign a contract by the end of October isn't going to work because there's too many plans right now that are still not in the works. As it turns out, there is some courses that the regional councillors and mayors will be able to look into starting, I believe it's next Wednesday. They'll be online for us to get more information. So I hope that they get it settled because it's one of the things that the province should be paying up, and it's going to be very expensive if the region has to pick it up.
Thanks, Councillor. The last thing I was going to say was my concern was that it was a region of Niagara issue and not a provincial issue, and so it alleviates some of my concern about it being a competitive disadvantage from an industrial, from us wanting to attract business to the Niagara region. Mm-hmm. If other municipalities or other regions are doing something different, but if it's a province-wide issue, I'm hoping, as you indicated, there will be a province-wide solution.
Yes.
So from our lips to the province's ears. Thank you for your
You
report.
bet. Thank you.
Councillor Vardy.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Just, I have a couple questions about Milk and Things.
Milk and things. Okay.
Okay, so they've bought the building. The region has bought the building.
Yep.
It's empty. One, can it be rented out, so at least there's some income?
Absolutely not.
Why is
It
the
has to
building
be-
being condemned?
The substructure of the bridge and the building itself are so intermingled that when they try and fix the bridge, the building's going to come down.
Oh, okay, but you said they're probably not going to do the bridge for about 5 years.
It has to be done within 5 years.
Okay, all right. So my next question is, what about the mall underneath? How is that impacted?
There's nothing underneath except water.
No, but, am I right or wrong? I'm right. Okay, so maybe I have another question, but you go for it.
It's the substructure that is intermingled with the bridge.
It's just the building's built on top of the creek, so it's there's nothing underneath it other than open air.
And water.
Councillor DeVoley.
Thank you, Mayor. Having had our business in that building for, 30, 40 years, and we were also the property managers of that 76 Main Street West, the basement actually is all old rock. So I'll say the east side of 76 Main Street in the basement, which would be right adjacent to where the sidewalk is, is all old rock that you would see in, some of our historic houses in the basements even. So I think when the building was constructed by the owner, whose wife is still alive, by the way, they made use of some of that existing structure from the bridge in some way. So just to add another complication, which I'm sure they'll figure out when they get down into that basement and the business is there and the owner of the business says, hey, wait a minute, whatever you do to that building is definitely going to have an impact on that commercial property that goes back from the road there.
Sure it will.
Thank you. If I can continue. I guess what I'm wondering about, that whole area, while I understand it probably needs remediation, is ideal for intensification. So how can we consider that within all of this plan? Is it,
As it stands right now, the region has no plans on doing anything with that property, and there is enough concern about the creek itself that perhaps it should be considered not to do anything, just leave it a creek.
so would they make it a park? Would they make it,
It's hard to say who's going to become ultimately the owner of it. Right now, the region owns the property. They will be taking care of putting in a bridge, doing any remedial work that needs to be done, and taking down a building.
okay, I just wonder if we could just before, I'll sign off now, but could we get a comment from Harold?
I don't think at this time, it's far too early in the process to get any comments right now.
Nothing like planning for the future, though, Mayor.
Well, no, we're going to move on. Councillor Sharwa.
Through Mayor Jordan, thank you. I'm not going to touch on one of the three. So I'm going to touch on the police service working budget that came forward, I think on September the 4th. So I'm not going to ask you a question because I don't want to throw you off, but just a comment. So the proposed budget, and it was a great presentation. I spoke with you in the parking lot. It was very thorough. I think I watched 3 or 4 hours and then I had to stop. But it was just explaining all the different scenarios and how every time they get a phone call, how many police and staff are working on just one case. So there's a great need. So just want to put that out there. However, the proposed impact for, the services that are needed is 5.32% total impact on the general levy, and an increase of $115 per household. So with that, I'm just hoping, I know we have 2 regional councillors, Mayor Jordan and yourself, just if there is this impact, I'm sure there's going to be an increase, we're going to hear about it from residents. Just if you could voice and make sure that we're actually getting a little bit more, and this money that we're investing is not just going to other neighboring municipalities. So if, for example, if there is some kind of an adjustment with the speed cameras, maybe then we could try to get more enforcement to pick up in those speed areas that maybe won't have cameras. So just an idea. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Councillor Korsanji.
Thank you, through Chair. I'm just going to follow up on the police comment. I talked to the staff sergeant a couple of weeks ago, and he gave me the information that the crime numbers are trending down in Grimsby. This year, over the last couple of years, it's been the best yet. If you could get access to some of that information so that you could present it to us, that would be fantastic.
I will do what I can for you. We will be seeing them very shortly for their full budget, so I'm sure we'll have some comments at that time.
Sarah, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we are also coordinating with Chief 40 to have both the chief and the staff sergeant come to delegate at our council.
And for anybody that hasn't had a chance to watch the report that the 2 councillors have mentioned, it really is a good report. It is lengthy, it's 3 or 4 hours, and it was one of the budget meetings recently at the region. It was giving us an idea of what the police needs are. And it's a bit of an eye-opener as they go through 4 particular cases and what's involved. So it's worth it. Grab some popcorn and, just enjoy your evening.
Councillor Barty.
Thank you. Just through you, Mr. Mayor, comment. If our crime is statistically going down, why are we paying more? So I'd like an answer to that. Thank you.
You sure you want it?
I know you don't have the answer.
Oh, I do.
But probably.
I do.
I mean, we have the biggest geographical area for probably one of the smallest
And that's
numbers
an
of
argument
police.
I've made, so absolutely. But right now, it's based on assessment, and unfortunately, we're the second highest assessment. So
Those are all questions, Councillor Barty, you can save for when Chief 40 and Staff Sergeant comes.
that is important. Thanks very much.
Seeing no further questions, thank you very much for your report,
Yes,
Michelle.
have a good
and
night.
Answering your questions. You have a good night. Up next, we have Chair's report for Corporate Services. Councillor Frake, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. The Corporate Services Committee met September the 15th. It was a pretty full agenda. We received previous minutes from Corporate Services of June 16, 2025, Joint Fire Services Advisory Committee of August 13, 2025, and the Grimsby Downtown Business Improvement Area Board of September the 10th, 2025. There's no delegations, no consent reports. However, we did have 4 discussion reports, and I'll try and get through them here as much as I can because they were quite lengthy. And we had one piece of correspondence, which I'll mention as well. So the first discussion report was about our IT status. Currently, the NRBN network provides connectivity to 6 municipal facilities, plus internet access to Grimsby Town Hall, Fire Hall 1 and 2, Grimsby Public Library, Livingston Activity Center, and the Grimsby Museum. Under the proposed renewal contract, the town would extend its network to include Southwood Park, thank God for that, internet access to Fire Station 2, and connect through a secondary hub on NRBN's network, which will make it more vibrant. The latter 2 services would provide the town with improved disaster recovery should the primary network hub suffer an outage in service. This renewed contract would see the town internet access maintain its 500 megabytes per second bandwidth at no increase in cost. The renewed fiber services contract with NRBN will add an additional internet access service from Fire Hall 2 to the escarpment. This provides the town with increased redundancy and fail-safe should the town lose its main internet access service currently based out of Town Hall. The town currently pays $49,316 a year for fiber internet and connectivity services and internet access services from NRBN. The proposed contract for the same services results in increased service levels, specifically additional connectivity, redundancy, and bandwidth, with only a nominal increase of $166 a month. So that was a good report and nice to get extra service for very small cost. The second discussion report was on administrative monetary penalties, AMPs. The purpose of this report is to provide the committee and council with options to strengthen the administrative monetary penalty system, called AMPS, and enhance customer service. In 2017, the provincial government amended the Municipal Act to establish AMPS, permitting municipalities to administer the enforcement of all Municipal Act bylaws rather than relying on the Provincial Offences Act court system. The town currently issues penalty notices under AMPS for only parking concerns, and we utilize the provincial or remedial action on private property matters only. The AMP system has been reviewed by the Law Commission of Ontario, and they recommend all municipalities adopt AMPS for parking and non-parking offences as it modernizes the prosecution process. So we now can deal with the non-parking issues here rather than have it go to a provincial level. The town established the required internal screening process to address disputed penalty notices and has entered into an agreement with Rutherford Prosecutions as the hearing officer for any subsequent appeals. AMPS accommodates all processing at the municipal level with no appeal through the POA. The next discussion report from the clerk was on the dissolution of council and committees in the new year. The Corporate Services Committee recommend that Council approve the dissolution of all non-statutory advisory committees in April of 2026 and the dissolution of all standing committees in June of 2026, with the option to present end-of-term reports and recommendations as outlined in the report. So we all get an opportunity to put together at our committee level any suggestions, recommendations going forward for the next members of council. In anticipation of the end of this term of council and the 2026 municipal election, this report aims to lay out the specifics of the committee dissolution process. The purpose of laying out a schedule is to ensure committees have a clear plan on how to communicate their successes and recommendations for the next term. In addition, this allows resources to be redirected to coordinate in the 2026 municipal election. There are currently 5 standing committees, as we already know, and there's 11 advisory committees. Staff recommend all non-statutory advisory committees have their last meeting in April and be provided an opportunity to present their respective standing committee in May or June. The presentation or written report would focus on the committee's accomplishments and identify opportunities for the next term of council. Also, staff recommended the last meeting for standing committees should take place in June 2026. Standing committees chairs should then provide a written report to council outlining their successes and future recommendation for the next mayor and council. It could be some of us, could be all of us, could be none of us. And we don't know how the next council is going to feel about committees. Strong mayor's powers will also play a part as well. All items of business for the remainder of 2022-26 council term will be taken directly to council. The next discussion report was based around flag raising, the proclamation of flag raising and half-masting policies. The town currently receives requests for proclamations and flag raisings to recognize, celebrate, and commemorate community events, holidays, charitable causes, and other organizations and events of a similar nature. Staff are recommending the adoption of two policies. 1, a proclamations policy, and 2, a flag raising and half-masting policy to increase clarity and consistency. The proclamations policy outlines the request process which goes to the clerk's department. The clerk or their designate will review all proclamation requests received based on the criteria dictated in the policy. Staff will work with the applicant to ensure compliance and compliant with all the criteria. All proclamation requests approved by the clerk and mayor will be placed on the agenda for the next meeting of the council. Following the proclamation made at the council meeting, a copy of the proclamation signed by the mayor will be sent via email to the original applicant. It will be placed on the town's website by the clerk or their designate, on the town's social media channels at the discretion of the communications department. Flag raising and half-masting policy summary. The flag raising is split into 3 major parts: general flag etiquette, half-masting, and community flag raisings. All of these reports, by the way, were quite lengthy, so did you want to speak some? Okay. Last, we had a discussion report, remuneration of committee members, to explore remuneration options for members attending committees of council and to consider the establishment of a policy requiring members of council to sit on a minimum number of committees. As a matter of note, the town of Grimsby has a long-standing history of not compensating committee or board members, whether they be council representatives or lay members of the public. The mayor and the head of council having powers regarding local boards and committees. Specifically, the mayor has the authority to establish or dissolve committees, appoint chairs and vice chairs of committees and boards, and assign functions to committees. It was recommended that the clerk's department draft the committees of council policy for the next term of council. And that's the end of my report. So if you have any questions, I'll try and answer them. I see that Henry is here if you have any questions on AMPS. And I don't know if the other folks are around or not. So that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Councillor Craig. Councillor DeVoley.
Thank you, Mayor. If I could just ask for some clarification on one point. You talked about advisory committees and standing committees and talk about the dissolution in June. Is there a specific date, like the end of the month? Is that what we're thinking?
The answer is yes, but I'm going to hand it over to
Sorry.
Victoria is really chomping at the bit there.
Through the chair, we will do the 2026 schedule, and it will be whenever their last meeting falls. So we'll give them, once we do the 2026 calendar, we'll give all the committees a heads up in the next couple months, I would anticipate, so that they know when their last meeting will be.
All right, seeing no further questions, on September 17th, we had our Planning and Development Committee meeting. Started at 5 p.m. with a statutory public meeting on the Wolverton, which is at 13 Mountain Street and 19 to 23 Elm Street. There were 7 members of the public commented on their thoughts, and it was, everyone kept decorum, and it was well attended, and now it moves to planning, and it eventually will come back to planning and then come to council. The other item we had was the progress report for 2025 on development and building, and everyone on council will be able to see towards the end of this year, the booklet like we did last year for the first time ever at planning. And it was very well received. And it really gave a good overview of everything that's happening in the planning department. And it's really a document that we can keep from year to year and will really give us a fulsome record of how much our planning department actually does. So it's something that we're really happy how it's been rolled out, and I just really want to thank staff for the great job that they've done with that document. And that's everything. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Seeing none. Up next, can I have a mover and seconder to approve the previous minutes? Moved by Councillor Howe, second by Councillor Frake. Councillor DeVolia has requested to lift Resolution COR 25-23 from the Corporate Services minutes from September 15th regarding the remuneration for council members memo. Councillor DeVolia, please go ahead and ask your questions.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. I will say I have 3 questions. My first one is just to ask for some clarification on the report 25-023. So that's item 9.1 on the of that committee. And my question is to ask, I guess, the clerk, if she could just expand upon or add some comments. The paragraph I'm referring to is on page 1, and it says members of council that sit on the Grimsby Power Incorporated board currently return their salaries to the town. And I was just wondering if you could just expand upon that. I don't think they actually get them and then return them. So if you could just clarify what you meant by that to start with.
Through the mayor, so the town budget is $25,000 per year in director revenues from GPI and NPI, and it officially offsets those funds from the tax levy. It's paid directly to the town and not the council members.
Thank you. My second question has to do with Niagara Power. So the report refers only to Grimsby Power, but we do have councillors that sit on Niagara Power. Well, actually one. Does this apply to Niagara Power as well?
Through the chair, yes. So the 25,000 is combined from GPI and NPI.
Thank you. And my last question, and maybe it's just a comment or the two rolled in together. I realize the report basically says, we're not sure what the next council will do in terms of its governance structure. If there'll be standing committees or a committee of the whole. So in essence, we are leaving that to the next council to decide on the remuneration policy, should they wish to enact one or look at it at all. And I realize that kind of puts it off to them, but I think it's important that the next council actually address it. So I guess my question is, is there anything we can do now to ensure that the issue is looked at? I realize, just like council compensation in the next term, that is truly up to that council. We made a recommendation on compensation, but it doesn't apply to us, and it only applies to the next council. So even when we look at these committees, of course, any decisions or any advice would only be for the next council. But is there any way to sort of put in writing what our advice might be?
Through the chair, so my recommendation would be those term-end reports that the advisory committees and standing committees will be doing. Those recommendations will be presented to the next mayor when they review how they want to form committee of the, whether it's committee of the whole or standing committees and advisory committees. So all of those recommendations that get put together in those term end reports are probably the best place to do that. So that would include things like you're mentioning, the remuneration, is the balance of councillors and lay members working for those committees. Those are all things that you could include in those recommendations. The current term of council can't bind the next term of council, so any formal recommendation doesn't apply or could not apply next term. So.
Thank you. That clarifies it.
Councillor Howe.
Thank you, through you, Chair. The answer says pretty, or your answer was pretty well. What I wanted to hear is how important that year end or term standing committee, our report, our thoughts, our feelings, how important they could be to help educate the next crew that are coming on here. We didn't have a whole lot of things to put our hands on when we got here. It was kind of learned by the seat of our pants, but going forward, I think it's really incumbent upon us to leave whatever, any information that we do have for the next crew. And if you scared me a little bit when you said about it's up to the next mayor, then I'll make sure that I collect them and have a copy, and I'll just give each member, of the new council a copy, because it's far, far, far too important that education gets to the next crew, so that the important things that we've been working on can be taken forward, and they can pick up the gauntlet, so to speak. So I think it's really critical. And the one concession that I believe we got out of the one meeting about the year-end meeting is that we're going to be able to have, as I said, an adult in the room to help us to stay on track on our reports as well. So thank you.
Councillor Sharwa.
Through Mayor Jordan, thank you. Just a quick comment. I think that's wonderful that you guys came up with this, community services, or not community, corporate services. I think it's great because everybody has that expertise, and we build on with the next term of council ways that we can move forward. So I think it's great. So thank you.
Seeing no further questions, moved by Councillor Howe, second by Councillor Frank. Resolved that the following minutes be approved. Council, September 8th, 2025. Corporate Services Committee, September 15th, 2025. Planning and Development Committee, September 17th, 2025. All in favor? That's carried. Up next, can I get a mover and seconder to approve the Grimsby Heritage Advisory Committee endorsement package from September 9th, 2025? Moved by Councillor DeFlavio, second by Councillor Corstangi. Moved by Councillor DeFlavio, second by Councillor Corstangi. Resolved that the Heritage Advisory Committee Council endorsement package dated September 9th, 2025 be approved. All in favor? That's carried. Can I get a mover and seconder to receive the board minutes? Moved by Councillor Corstangi, second by Councillor Bradzi. Moved by Councillor Corstangi, second by Councillor Bradzi. Resolved that Grimsby Public Library Board meeting minutes dated June 11th, 2025 be received. All in favor? And that's carried. Are there any announcements this evening from the floor? Councillor Howe.
Through you, Chair, and hopefully I'm not going to steal your thunder here, but I'd like to say a great big thank you to our staff, to our Town of Grimsby staff that were involved in and worked at and made the plowing match, and our booth at the plowing match, just a class act. And I had the opportunity to see, and people coming through there, and they were smiling. Damn, felt good to know that I was part of that group. And all kudos to them. And now I'll give the plowing match. Boy, what a show. What a show. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Howe. Councillor Sharwa.
Through Mayor Jordan, thank you. Again, I would agree that staff did a great job setting that booth up and everything that was with that. So I know maybe you didn't get the attention and the thanks from some of the other municipalities necessarily, but I know that there was a lot of work behind the Team Grimsby, so just thank you. A few things. There's, as Michelle Seaborn had mentioned, there is a public information session tomorrow regarding the future of Beamer Memorial Conservation. It is, again, tomorrow, 6 till 8 p.m. at the Pump House. And then in the future, I'm not going to expand on what all these are, but from Community Services, there's Moonlight Market and Movie happening on Saturday, October 18th. I'll discuss it a little more in the future. And then Grimsby Glows is happening Saturday, November 1st from 5 till 8. So a little bit more information as we get closer. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to, before I talk about the IPM, I would just like to share that the Cooper Robinson's Foundation 6th annual Run with Coops event is scheduled to take place October 4th and 5th, 2025. You can register to walk, run, or wheel in your own neighborhood or with a team, or join them at a community social on Sunday, October 5th at 10:30 a.m. at Southwood Park. And for more information, you can email cooperrobinsonfoundation@gmail.com. Yeah, Robertson, yeah. And just again, Councillor Howe, just to back on you and Councillor Charwa, the staff did an amazing job at that booth. It was very professionally done, and it's just something that now that we have events coordinator and we have our communications department, it just really shows what you can do with that, and having that booth up there and the way it was done, it just made, I think, everyone here proud to be part of Grimsby and to be on this council. It really turned a lot of heads, and at the different events that I was at, a lot of people commented about how they thought our booth was very professional. So really, again, thanking staff and all the volunteers on staff that were up there. There were different people there all the time. So it was really nice to see a bunch of staff out there participating at the plowing match. Any further announcements? Councillor DeFlavio.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, I just wanted to mention the Grimsby Author Series is going into its 24th season, starting this Friday. It's sold out for the fall again. It's pretty much always sold out, but it is ongoing. The authors this week are Emma Knight and Anne Choi. Keep an eye out if you're interested in attending. The tickets for the spring session will go on sale after the new year. I know it's hard to get tickets because they sell out quickly, but I do encourage people to go. It's nice to see new people there, give other people an opportunity. We are limited in our capacity because we have it at the Grimsby Public Library, our beautiful library. But it's a great event, and I would encourage people to attend if they can.
Councillor Korstanji.
Thank you, through Mayor. I had the privilege of attending the Provincial Volunteer Awards on Wednesday, and I would just like to congratulate one of my colleagues, got an award for 5 years of consecutive volunteer work with Special Olympics, and I was pleasantly surprised to see 2 other women from Grimsby getting volunteer awards for volunteering with Girl Guides of Canada, so just congratulations to them.
Councillor Charwa.
Through Mayor Jordan, thank you. Our lovely councillor Korstanji was honored with a 10-year service award as well. So I just wanted to point that out. So congratulations.
All right, seeing no further announcements, we're moving to notice of motions now. Councillor Charwa, please read your notice of motion.
Whereas transparency and accountability are foundational to the decision-making of council, standing committees, advisory committees, and task forces. And whereas residents and members of council benefit from having access to the same information presented in open session. And whereas not all committees and task forces provide video recordings of their meetings, limiting the ability of residents and council members who are not on these committees to view the reports and presentations. Therefore, be it resolved that all reports and presentations considered in open session by council, standing committees, advisory committees, and task forces be included with the corresponding agenda to ensure consistent public access. I acknowledge that this notice of motion will be given consideration at the October 6, 2025 council meeting. Thank you.
All right, can I have a mover and seconder for the correspondence from the City of Thorold regarding the publication of the Sexual Offender Registry? Councillor Bradzi and Councillor Charwa. Moved by Counselor Bradzi, second by Counselor Sharwa. Resolved that council vote to support the City of Thorold's resolution regarding the publication of the sexual offender registry. All in favor? That's carried. Can I have a mover and seconder to approve the bylaws? Moved by Counselor Frake, second by Counselor Corstangi. Resolved that leave be given to introduce bylaws 25-53 to 25-57 inclusive, and that same be read a first time, considered, and passed. All in favor? That's carried. Next meeting of council is scheduled for September 29th, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. Now we're going to move to closed session, report PA 25-33. Can I get a mover and seconder to get report 25?
Yeah, so we're going to put it on the floor. and
Okay, so we
open,
put it on the floor. Okay,
And then
all right.
if there's any open comments, we can take them.
All right. Can I get a mover and seconder to get report PA 25-33 on the floor for discussion before we go into close? Councillor DeFlavio, second by Councillor Corstangi. Are there any questions and comments from council in open session? All right. Please note that we will be voting on this report immediately following closed session. Can I have a mover and seconder to go into closed session to discuss report PA 25-33, A 2526, 38 Morrison Crescent, representation at the Ontario Land Tribunal? Mover and seconder to go into close, Councillor Sharwa and Councillor Davoli. Moved by Councillor Sharwa, second by Councillor Davoli. Resolved that council meet in closed session under section 2392 of the Municipal Act, specifically regarding the PA 25-33, A 2625, 38 Morrison Crescent, representation at the Ontario Land Tribunal, OLT, pursuant to section 2392E. All in favor to go into closed? All right, we're now moving into closed. Yeah, we just need everyone to leave the chamber. Yeah, we'll give a 5-minute break, so we'll moving back to open now. All right, welcome back to open session. We have the resolution on the floor. We need a mover and seconder. Moved by Councillor Vardy, second by Councillor Howe. Moved by Councillor Vardy, second by Councillor Howe. Resolved that report PA 25-33, A 2625, 38 Morrison Crescent, minor variance application, town representation at Ontario Land Tribunal dated September 22nd, 2025 be received, and that council directs staff to retain legal counsel and alternative professional planning expertise to defend the Committee of Adjustments' decision to refuse the application or reach a negotiated settlement with the applicant. Recorded vote, please. Use the e-scribe. Thanks. All right, that's carried. Can I have a mover and seconder for the confirming bylaw? Moved by Councillor Frank, second by Councillor Corsangi. Resolved that leave be given to introduce bylaw 25-58 and the same be read a first time, considered and passed. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Meeting is adjourned.